Hooray, hurrah! Once again, the Great Proops Film Club convenes here at Hollywood's most fabulous cinematic incantation, the Los Feliz 3, right here for the American Cinematheque, and tonight, the 1947 classic Dark Passage with Bogart and Bacall. This is where you applaud. Hooray! We're making a podcast like every other white guy in America. And tonight, we're pretty excited about this picture. Jennifer picked this one out. Jennifer does all the curating for the movie, and she is my wife. And she's here tonight, by the way, if you want to give her a hand. I will reach into the globe of mystery and take out the decanter of enchantment so that we may together on this summer night have some fucking fun in this burning shit pile that was once a country. I will have nothing. Whoa, smash. I will have. I will not let the forces that be destroy our ability to have good times and enjoy cinema together, ladies and gentlemen, because every act of enjoyment is an act of defiance and an act of revolution. You mustn't let the pigs get you down, as Abby Hoffman once said. So here we are. 1947 was a wild year in cinema. Lots of great film noir, and this one rolls right in. Written by David Goodis, who wrote loads of books and fantastically made into pictures by René Clément, and Truffaut did Don't Shoot the Piano Player. And Bogart read this book in 1946, and he wanted to make it into a movie. And so here we are. Now, it's the third of the four Bogie and Bacall movies. I think the first one is Have and Have Not. I might be wrong. And then Big Sleep, then this one, then Key Largo. And this one takes place in San Francisco. And part of the reason we're showing it tonight is an absolute celebration of San Francisco and San Francisco summer. Now, yeah, one person almost applauded. And in LA, that's like an ovation. So here we are. Lauren Bacall, of course, was quite young when she made these pictures, but a teen when she started. Betty, as everyone knew her, because that was her name. And Lauren Bacall started with Howard Hawks, took her under his, if you'll pardon the expression, wing. And he got her to speak in a lower tone of voice, which is the sexy, sultry voice that we all know of Lauren Bacall. Also, apparently, she was so nervous when she did the screen test for Have and Have Not that he had her hold her head down like this and look up, which you'll find that she does quite a lot in all of her pictures. And we saw an interview years ago with Lauren Bacall, who I don't think was anyone's idea of a shrinking violet. Lauren Bacall, yeah, was a tough girl and got every kind of honor, right? The Kennedy Center, she had 2 Tonys. And what I love about her career is both of her Tonys were for musicals. Okay, I'll let that sit there a little bit. You never really think of Lauren Bacall belting out a song. Of course, she does sing in Have and Have Not and whatnot, but she did win 2 Tonys for Best Actress in a Musical for Applause and, what was it, Woman of the Year, both of which were pictures before they were musicals. In any case, she was a teenager and kind of new to the business, and Howard Hawks was a man. And it was the 40s, and his wife was a superb writer whose name was Slim. And so in the first picture, they gave her the name Slim, and Howard Hawks' nickname was Steve. And so in the first picture, Bogart is Steve, and Bacall is Slim. Now, I watched an interview with her years ago, and fantastically, she was interviewed by David Frost, and he said, well, tell us about Howard Hawks. And she went, well, Howard Hawks was very interested in me. And she went, well, and David Frost goes, well, did he try anything? And she went, well, I think he would have liked some apple pandowdy. And that's the first time I've ever heard that referred to that way. And I've never forgotten that she called it apple pandowdy. In any case, this picture takes place in San Francisco, and you'll find that the apartment building that a good deal of the movie takes place in, and the elevator in that apartment building are still there, and you can go visit them at 1036 Montgomery Street, but not the lower part, if you know anything about San Francisco, of Montgomery Street. The upper part that's not attached to the lower part of Montgomery Street is up on a hill. And that's where the apartment building is, and it has a commanding view of the bay from one side, and from the other side is where we see it from. And if you go there now to 1036 Montgomery, it's on the 3rd floor, the flat, and still there, and the building is still intact and still beautiful Art Deco building. They've put a big cutout of Bogart in the window, so he's always looking out at you if you go there, which is fantastic. Now, Lauren Bacall claims that he was losing his hair when they were making this movie, but I don't know that Bogart had any goddamn hair to begin with, let's be honest. He wears a wig in almost all of his movies, or at least a piece, and then by the next movie, Key Largo, he was certainly wearing a wig. Even in Casablanca, he's got a piece on, for sure. He wasn't the hairiest of guys, but he was a real tough guy. And from a really rich family, and his mother, I believe, enjoyed drugs with something close to a fervency. And he started out on Broadway doing lots and lots of plays where he played sort of ingenue types, if you can believe this. And I've read it in more than one place. He's credited with being the actual actor that has the line, "Tennis, anyone?" Yeah, in one of his varsity plays that he did on Broadway. So then he decided to go to Hollywood, and when he came to Hollywood, he was in a lot of not so great pictures. And then he got signed at Warner's for a pretty shabby deal, and they made him a gangster in 1,000 movies. But what really made him was he was in a Broadway show with Leslie Howard, who you may know, who died quite young in World War II. Leslie Howard plays Ashley in Gone with the Wind, if you've seen Gone with the Wind. We're not going to discuss Gone with the Wind tonight, other than... So, yeah. It's a movie, it's substantial, it means something, and you probably don't have to see it if you haven't seen it, but if you have, whatever. Anyway, Leslie Howard plays a Southern person in the movie who has a decided British accent. And he's vague and inclusive through the entire movie. He's in love with Scarlett O'Hara. I said I wasn't going to talk about it, and here we are. That's all right. This is a cocktail party where I'm the only guest. You're trapped in the corner with me, and it's a one-sided conversation, so I hope you're ready for the rest of this. Leslie Howard plays a vague, sort of noble Southern guy with an English accent in the movie. And Scarlett O'Hara, as played by Vivien Leigh, who's, by the way, English as well, but has a Southern accent in the movie. So she's from that part of Georgia. He must be from Birmingham. So she's in love with him, and it's unrequited, and she keeps chasing him around, and he's married to Melanie, who's played by Olivia de Havilland. And all through the whole movie, Leslie Howard says, "Oh, Scarlett, if only I had the ability to have an erection, then maybe I could," you know, it goes on and on and on. He's so dickless through the whole movie. Anyway, he had this great play that he was in called The Petrified Forest, and it's a very good play and a very good movie. And he's trapped he's a wandering poet who ends up in a filling station in Arizona. Stay with me. And this is what I love about fiction. And he ends up in a filling station in Arizona, and a gangster rolls up to the filling station with his gang, which is multiracial. He has a black guy in his gang who he does not treat any worse than anyone else in his gang. There's a special, awesome egalitarianism in their thievery. And when they roll up, they take over the diner, and they take everyone hostage. And the gangster is Humphrey Bogart. And the name of his character is Duke Mantee. And he was so great in the role on Broadway that Leslie Howard decided that he wanted him in the movie. Well, Jack Warner was like, "No, we're having Edward G. Robinson," who was a gigantic star at the time. If Bogart was like fourth in line, right? There would be a third at least. It was always Edward G. Robinson and George Raft ahead of him. And then Bogart, because Bogart only played the best friend, or the guy who got killed on the second reel or whatever. So he, when they were going to make the picture, they screen tested Eddie G, the whole enchilada, and apparently Leslie Howard wrote a telegram to Jack Warner and said, "No Bogie, no movie." Right? So he got to do the movie, and he's great in the movie because they pull in and they sit there and they have their guns on everybody, and it's Betty Davis and all this. And he goes, "Why don't we just sit here and listen to the radio and enjoy ourselves?" And so then he went on to, after playing a bunch of gangsters in a load of movies, including High Sierra, which is a tremendous movie by Raoul Walsh. He got to play a romantic lead in Casablanca, and then it's off to the races. Then he's a superstar after that. Then he gets a load of money. He becomes the lead in all these pictures. And by the way, I read one item today that said Lauren Bacall was 5'8.5", which was unusually tall for then, and made her a half an inch taller than Humphrey Bogart. If Humphrey Bogart is 5'8", I will fillet everyone in this movie theater. I don't think he's Alan Ladd height, but I don't think he's 5'8" either. Because Ingrid Bergman's in Casablanca, and you can see photographs of them when they're not shooting. Humphrey Bogart's wearing 3.5-inch platform shoes for every scene he's in with Ingrid Bergman, because she's at least 5'7", 5'8", and almost 6 in heels, right? Now, all of the gangster actors were shrimpkins. And fantastically, two of the best ones were dancers. Jimmy Cagney and George Raft were both superb dancers. And one way you can see this is later in the movie, Some Like It Hot, where where Billy Wilder had the genius to bring George Raft back as the gangster, because no one plays gangster like George Raft. If you think Bogart does a minimum of acting, George Raft, acting is a passing notion. From my dressing room to the set, and then when we get there, I'm going to do what I do. Because George Raft just learns like this. Oh, real smart, eh? Bam! That's it. You get nothing. So he's in Some Like It Hot as the gangster, and there's a scene where they kill Toothpick Charlie and his gang, and Toothpick Charlie's toothpick sticking out of his mouth, and George Raft comes up to kick out the toothpick. And any other gangster would go like this. Bam! George Raft goes. And kicks out the toothpick. And they tango in the movie, if you recall. Jack Lemmon and Joey Brown tango in the movie Some Like It Hot, because it takes place in the 20s when tangoing was super groovy. And George Raft taught them how to do it. They were like on the set, and they're like, we have to tango, and George Raft went, I'll show you. Because he was a superb dancer. Now, getting to the point, this movie's set in San Francisco, and it was shot in San Francisco. There's a diner in it that was on Poe Street that's not there anymore. They shoot it there as well, and the apartment building. Humphrey Bogart escapes from San Quentin, which, if you've ever been to Marin, is at the end of the ferry line that you take from San Francisco to San Rafael. And when the boat lands, you're right next to the prison. So it's the most stunning piece of real estate in the goddamn universe, with a full view of the San Francisco Bay and San Francisco, and there's a federal penitentiary there. Because America, fuck yeah. And so I'm from San Francisco, if I haven't made that clear to begin with. And the reason you'll know is because I'm almost intolerable. I'm supercilious and snotty, arch and effeminate. I'm from San Francisco, and no, I'm not. Thank you for asking. How about that? I just act this way. And the thing about San Francisco is, especially for you Angelinos, which of course there's like 4 people here that are from Southern California. Everyone else is from Michigan or some shithole in the Midwest. And by the way, I'm in Michigan, and they're like, oh, the Great Lakes. And you're like, oh, they're okay. Great. They're big. I mean, San Francisco's on a bay. We just call it the Bay. We don't call it like, oh, come to the Great Bay. Because we already know it's great. But in Michigan, they have like inferiority or whatever. Oh, we haven't shot a duck lately or whatever, or ate a bunch. And worn shitty clothes, so let's call our lake all great. Because whatever's going on in Michigan, one thing you need to know is there's something close to a vendetta against waterfowl. They hunt duck almost ceaselessly in the state, especially the UP or Upper Peninsula, if you will. And by the way, people from Michigan go like this to tell you where they're from. This is the bottom of Michigan. They never do the Upper Peninsula part. They go, I'm from here. And you're like, if you have to demonstrate on your hand where you're from in the state, no one from California goes, okay, here's Los Angeles, and here's San Diego. My armpit is Mexico, and then here's San Francisco, and then whatever. This is Oregon, I think. So one thing you know about San Francisco is when you're from San Francisco, you know two things. One, everything. And two, that where you're from is cooler than no matter where you go. So we have a natural immunity to elsewhere. So we're not particularly overawed, and when I say we, I mean San Franciscans and the people I represent, are never really blown out of the water by other places. And people will always try to like sex you up on other cities and stuff, right? They really will. Like people, you go to the South and they're like, have you been to Nashville? And you're like, isn't that where Kid Rock has a bar? And they're like, oh, the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes are full of lampreys and eels. Gross. Gross. The San Francisco Bay is full of homosexual whales who glide freely through the Pacific and then through the Golden Gate into the bay and then back out again, delicately and with great grace. Lake Michigan is full of lampreys. Lampreys are disgusting. And God made a huge mistake on lampreys. So we call San Francisco, because we're insanely parochial, the city, right? And now you've heard San Franciscans call it the city. Don't fucking pretend you haven't, because I know you have. And they'll go, oh, I'm from the city. And everyone else is like, what do you mean the city? There are other cities. And people from San Francisco are like, uh-huh. But I'm from the city. And then people in New York call New York the city, but we ignore that in San Francisco because New York doesn't exist to us. From San Francisco, there's Oakland, and then there's a thing called Nevada, and then there's a vast place where the plane flies over. And then it lands on the other coast. And that's where New York is situated, near New Brunswick and all the other news. Jersey and New Caledonia, whatever is over there. So we're parochial and we call it the city. And people are like, how can you call it the city? And I'm like, hello, the city. Ding, ding, cable car. Hello, I'm a crab. Sourdough bowl, whatever. Jewish mayor, homosexuals. All the things that make America freak the fuck out every 2 seconds. Crusading black lady lawyer who became vice president, who chased down predators who white people had to shoot down because Haitians were eating cats and dogs in Ohio. That city, that's the city that we're talking about. The city that leads the country in thought and shit like that. Now, I'm a big LA person. I like it here. I'm not one of those San Franciscans who hates LA. I've been here 125 years. Because like everyone else, I'm laboring under the same delusion that everyone else in Los Angeles is laboring under, that fortune is going to smile on me because my talent is so rare. San Francisco is a city. How do you define that? Because things are next to other things. When you're in San Francisco, you go, I tire of this bar. Let us seek salubrious elsewhere, surroundings that we may imbibe in together in a genial and collegial manner. And then you leave the bar and you go next door because there's another bar there. In Los Angeles, you go, I grow weary of these surroundings. Let's get in the car and drive until time bends back on itself in an infinite Mobius loop that no physicist could ever, that Richard Feynman would be like, I'm done answering questions, okay? I don't know when we're getting there. And no, I don't know where Monrovia is. Nothing is near anything in Los Angeles. And then people will go, hey, why don't you come visit me? And you're like, where do you live? And they're like, Pasadena. And you're like, ah! No one who lives in Los Feliz would dream of going to Pasadena for any reason whatsoever, unless you had a legal matter or something, or you were making a hit. That's the difference. Like in San Francisco, if someone says, hey, we're doing a thing in Oakland tonight, you're like, well, you have fun. Oakland is what, 10, 15 minutes away? But you have to cross the water, you see. And San Francisco is where America, there's San Francisco, and then across that bridge is where America begins. And that's what makes us so trepidatious. We don't want to visit the mainland. We're on a little peninsula all by ourselves. It's not very big. And that's how it works. We don't want other, and people are so arrogant. Like, I have a friend from New York, right? And he says to me, can I tell you something? And I go, no. And he goes, why not? And I go, because I know what you're going to say. And he goes, what am I going to say? I go, you're going to say you went to San Francisco and they were really rude to you and uncooperative. And he's like, yeah, they were. How did you know that? I'm like, I'm from San Francisco. That's what we do. Our interest in the outside world is not, minimal doesn't even begin to describe how little interest San Francisco has in the outside world. If there's a word less than minimal, that zero, infinite Googleplex zero, integer, whatever, is how interested we are. Because people are like, oh, I'm from New York. And people in San Francisco are like, you guys should really steam clean your town. I'm almost sure they bring in urine from other cities. So I was in, every time I go back, I appreciate San Francisco more and more because the people are so uncooperative and rude. And it makes me feel super welcome. Because I go to the Midwest and people are like, hey, howdy. You know, I was in Indiana and they're like, hey, Greg, how are you? We're welcome to buttermilk or whatever. And I'm like, people are so friendly here in Indiana. And the guy who I was talking to, who looked like, by the way, Matt Damon's gay porn star cousin, which is what all guys in Indiana look like if they're not obese fucking, you know, jersey wearing, gimme cap wearing, psychopath, January 6th seditionists. So, yeah, you heard me. Be as sensitive as you like. Says to me, I go, people are so nice here in Indiana. And he goes, that's why they call it the Heartland. And I was like, excuse me, I have to go shoot heroin in my eyeball now. Because your wholesomeness has disgusted me. So Jennifer, my wife, who I explained earlier, programs the show, used to work at City Lights Books in San Francisco. Now, if you've ever been to San Francisco, you might have frequented City Lights Book, where there is an enormous David Goodis section. And if you go to City Lights, it is maybe the most difficult place to buy a book in the United States. It's a bookstore, but that's just where it starts. Because if you bring your book to the counter and they don't like the book you've chosen, they're like, you know, they'll push it away. And don't go there and go, do you have any Tom Clancy? Because then they'll just be like, get out. Hit the fucking bricks. You're not allowed to ask for anything written by a Nazi. It's the kind of bookstore where you walk in and they're like, books by men are downstairs. They're the commodities aesthetics section, okay? It's near North Beach, right? It's right down, in fact, it's located quite conveniently to North Beach. And so there's Italian restaurants everywhere. So tourists will breeze in, and they go to San Francisco in the summertime, this time of year, in fact, and they wear shorts and flip-flops and a wife beater or whatever. I know wife beater's a delicate choice to make for a tank top, but I always have to feel like men who wear them, even if they don't beat their wives, they're thinking about it. Just putting one on makes it, it's on your mind, let's be honest. It's like wearing a baseball hat inside at night. Like, is that your evening cap? Or are you just trying to make America great again in the dark here? Even the St. Louis Cardinals don't wear red caps anymore, you guys. So, and the crowd goes quiet. What are St. Louis Cardinals, Greg? They're a baseball team. I don't have time to explain sports to an intellectual crowd. So, it's in North Beach, City Lights, and people will come in and go, hey, I'm looking for an Italian restaurant. And the people who work at City Lights will be like, well, I really hope you find one. You guys are taking it so seriously. I think people from LA love San Francisco. And people from San Francisco have a one-way rivalry going on with Los Angeles. San Franciscans are hateful about LA because what it's supposed to be shallow and shit like that, except that the burritos here are supreme. And the food in LA is great, and the weed is great, and the weather's fucking superb. There's a lot of great things about LA, except for all the people who run show business who are complete shondas. But other than them, and by the way, if you're here tonight and you run show business, you're not a shonda. You're one of the good ones. Thank you for coming to this show. My name is Greg Proops, and I'm available at popular prices. And Look at me. Look at my punum. I can play a lawyer, okay? Think of me on one of the CSI or SUV or whatever those shows are called. Your testimony is full of half-truths and hearsay. Right? You guys bought that. You bought it. But there's a one-way rivalry going on, and it runs right down the I-5, right past, what is that place? Harris Ranch in the middle there. Anyone driven the road between LA and San Francisco? There's a freeway, and then halfway down is Coalinga, which is where evidently every redneck in California lives along that highway because they're very upset about Nancy Pelosi having stolen their water, which I think she's quite old and she lives in Pacific Heights in San Francisco. Where's she putting the water? Now, mind you, Northern California, as you ascend toward the Oregon border, where the blackberries are kept, it gets crazier and crazier. Because the further you go from San Francisco, if you get to like Shasta County, it's like Matthew McConaughey in the Free State of Jones or whatever. The people there have completely taken leave of their sin. They're like, we're going to have our own country up here. We're going to run it on methamphetamine and marijuana. What? Cigarettes are $2. How? Boom, we did it. Use your mind. Use your mind. Use your mind to let the DNA go. But was it that way anywhere? I mean, if you head toward Brea, you're in for a big trouble. And someone's like, Brea is a city near here, kind of near. It's in Orange County. And by the way, Orange County isn't even Orange County anymore. When I was little, you could count Orange County to be a bastion of Nazism, where they were just driving, German cars from the particularly virulent anti-Semitic parts of Germany, And now Orange County's kind of fucking blue, except for Huntington Beach. Huntington Beach is holding the line. One last thing about San Francisco, and then we're going to push into this movie, which was directed by a man named Delmer, last name spelled D-A-V-E-S. I'm going to call him Daves. I don't know if his name is Davies. By the way, the director of this movie was also from San Francisco and went to Stanford, so there. And no, he didn't go to UCLA Film School. And because he wanted to be creative. I've forgotten the point of this last one here, but here we go. So this movie is from 1947, and it was shot in San Francisco, and we're going to leave you with that. And now I give you the classic by Delmer Daves from 1947 with the unbelievably awesome Agnes Moorhead, Lauren Bacall, and Humphrey Bogart, 1947's Dark Passage.